Yo, yo, YouTube! It is Thursday, the 9th of November. My day didn't go to plan at all, but I've got quite a lot to tell you about. So, early this morning, I had nothing booked. Early this morning, about probably about 8 o'clock, past 8. Oh no, let's go back a step. Last night, I got home from my London adventure at and I was in my bed by about 2. I got in the house about 10 to 2, and I woke up about 7:15, and I wasn't that refreshed at that point, I must say. But I wasn't. I sort of dozed for a bit, but I wasn't really able to get back to sleep. So about 8:30 ish, I had a phone call from the people that had given me the job earlier in the week from Grimsby to Leeds, offering me that job again with an extra pickup in Leeds to start off with. So I was going to get £50 extra, so £170 from going from Leeds to Grimsby, um, 3 pickups, and then a pickup in Scunthorpe, and then it was going to be a drop off in Leeds. And so I had to be there around about half past 12. And so I was looking at other bids, and I put a bid on a few jobs, and then one came up from Kettering going to Normanton, which I thought would be quite good to get me to Leeds. I didn't look at the actual times, but I was about an hour from Kettering. I put a bid on it anyway, and I think it was something like £115 I bid. I think it's about £1 a mile, I think, £1 a loaded mile. Can't quite remember. So I had my day sorted out. So I left the house at 9:40, heading towards um, Kettering, and I had basically in the bag £285, as long as I could get everywhere in time. And I was making my way. When I was driving, the van felt weird. I couldn't describe to you at the time or now what felt differently about it. It just felt like it was labouring a bit. It wasn't necessarily the engine. It was really weird. I thought this doesn't seem quite right. I can't put my finger on what's wrong. So I carried on, just sort of keeping an eye out, listening out for what might be going wrong, and just sort of being aware of the drivability of the vehicle. And then there's a car flashing behind me on this road, this like B road. And often the first thing I think about is, oh, I left the door open, but I had nothing loaded this morning. Then I thought, well, usually flashing means there's a police car ahead, but this was behind me. So it kept flashing, so I thought I'd better pull over and just see what they want. So I pulled to the side of this B road, and then the lady came up next to me and said, words to the effect of, you've got a puncture and your tyre is smoking. I looked out of my wing mirrors on my passenger side, and I could see smoke out the back of my van. So I thanked her, and then she went on her way. And I went round, and my tyre, it's hard to describe what state it was in. It was kind of ripped on the side, on the edge, on the side, not on the top. So where the tread is, it was fine, but the actual rim around the outside was kind of ripped and smoking. And I instantly knew I wasn't going anywhere fast. So I pulled across. I just pulled across, so I was literally off the road, so that people could get past me. One slight aside. This is why I don't like people who think they're funny. A van came up as I just as done this, and I was sort of looking at my tyre, and the person in the driver's in the passenger seat, who was probably just a teenage kid, said, "Oi, mate, you can't park there." And then they drove off. Like, like that's funny. I mean, clearly I'd broken down. I had my hazards on. I was out of the van looking at a steaming tyre, and they think that's funny, and I think that's just not very helpful or funny. Anyway, that's just me being old and grumpy. Um, so I have got recovery. Um, I was looking for my recovery details in my van, but I couldn't find them. I thought I had an app for it, but I couldn't find it on my phone. And I have in the past um, used recovery, and they take ages to come out to you. And I wasn't that far from home, so and I had got a spare tyre in my van. So I rang the garage that I use and just said, "Is there any chance you can come out and just change my tyre for me?" And he said he couldn't do it because he didn't have a van with him. But he gave me the number of someone he knew who was a tyre place. So he said, "You can try them." So I tried the tyre place, and they were really helpful and agreed to come out at a really good price. I'll tell you what it was. It's £45 plus VAT, which I thought was a bargain price. Now, I'm sure most of you, because you're that way inclined, will be thinking, just change the wheel yourself. If you've got a spare wheel, get your jack out, do it yourself. It's really easy to do it along. And all I can say to you is, it's not my thing. I'd much rather work for a couple of hours and then use that money to pay for a professional to come out and do it in 5 minutes than me try to fiddle about getting dirty and sweary and not achieve it. And also, I haven't got the tools for it. I haven't got the right tools for it. I haven't got the skills for it. I haven't got the motivation for it. And after today, it just proved to me that I did the right thing, because I was, from the time that I called him to the time that I was back on the road, it was 47 minutes. And that included him driving to me, which is half an hour away. So I can't complain about that level of service. After I'd called, actually before I'd called the garage, I called the shipper, two shippers, to say that I'd got a tyre and apologised that I couldn't do their job for them. I was really sorry. I really didn't want to let them down, but I just couldn't. As soon as I knew, I had to read them and say, "There's no way I can get this done today." When I got through to the garage, and he's on his way, I thought, well, actually, I might get this done quite quickly. So I added an hour onto my travel time to Leeds from where I was, and I would have got there about an hour late. No, yeah, maybe half an hour late, but it was within time. So I rang that shipper back and said, I will be available to do this job later on, but I'll be late if you still need me. And he said that he'd covered it, and I was really thankful for that, because obviously he wasn't then left high and dry. So he'd covered it, I'd confirmed he'd covered it, I was happy with that. So then I went back to my first job, because if I'd carried on to Kettering, it was closer. I'd have been there, but only an hour after I was planning to be there. So I rang that shipper and said, if you still need me, I can still come. If you find someone else, that's fine, but I am available as a backup if you need me. In about an hour, well, in 2 hours' time, I get there at 12 o'clock. And she said she covered it as well. So I was really pleased I made that second call, because both the jobs had been covered pretty quickly after I couldn't do them. So I didn't feel any guilt then about letting them down. Right, so now I was going to say, so the other thing I was going to say is about changing the tyre. I've stood there and I did watch how he did it, because I wanted to learn from a professional how you did it. And actually, it is really simple, providing you have the right tools. I reckon I've got the knowledge now, having seen him do it, but I don't have the tools. And I'm trying to remember what tools he used, and let you know. So he started off with a pair of calipers pulling off my wheel nuts, which I don't have. He then put on kind of 6-inch cylindrical um, bolts. What do you call it? It goes over the bolt, and then that was attached to a very long ratchet, so about 60 centimeters long ratchet. So he then hand undid all of the nuts, which looked really easy with the long item. I don't have that ratchet and that attachment. He then used a drill with a kind of a bolt bit on to unscrew all the nuts, and then he had a jack, which was I call it what do I call it? I'm trying to proper name for it. He kind of uses a piston and compressed air. You kind of compress it down, and it rises up really quickly. It's not one where you wind up by hand, which is what I've got on my van. And also, I don't trust those wind up little zigzag metal um, jacks on a van that's like 1.5 tons heavy. If I don't know what I'm doing, I wouldn't know where to put it and how, whether it's safe. I wouldn't be able to do it safely. But his jack went under the back of my van, and he kind of lined it up with my axle. He was looking. I couldn't see what he was looking at, but he was looking at something. It was about 6 inches away from my wheel inside, and he had a really long handle on it, so he could kind of push it in, and then not have to get under the van. And then once you got it lined up, you kind of pressed something, and it might have jacked it a bit. I can't remember. It might jack the back end of it, and it just raised up like it really smoothly. It looked really simple. So the jack and the ratchet and the calipers and the drill are the 4 tools that he had. With those 4 tools, he then could put my spare wheel on, and then just reverse the whole thing to go back on, tighten up. So if I was to get all those items, I could change my wheel now, but I don't know where I'd store them all. I suppose I could store the drill. To be fair though, if I had a drill, it'd run out of power, wouldn't it, by the time I wanted to use it, and I'd get all stressed about it. But the big thing was the jack. Where would I keep my jack? It's a big thing, big old heavy thing. So I just think getting professionals to do it is the thing for me. Right, so as it was, I learned something about changing a wheel, which is quite helpful, and I got him to take the wheel away with him. He's going to get me a replacement tyre, which is really handy, and that's that. So I then head off back home, and I was then home for about 11 o'clock. So I did a bit of finance, sort of like accounting, but I was looking for jobs as well. But there were loads of jobs, but they're all for tomorrow morning, which makes me wonder if tomorrow's going to be a really busy day, being a Friday, because there must have been about 10 jobs for the morning in that sort of hour period that I was looking for. And I kind of was thinking, well, what do I do now? Do I have the day off, or do I try and get a job? I did look for jobs, and there was just nothing close to me. Lots of stuff that was an hour away from me. I put a few bids on, but didn't get anything. And then a job came on from Wisbech going to Hull with a shipper that I use quite a lot. And I know that if I put a reasonable bid on, he'll give me the job. So I put a reasonable bid on, and I got the job. And I made my way to Wisbech to pick up this load. This would have been. I got this job I left the house at 1:40. I had to be on site by 2:30, and so it gave me time to go fill up a fuel on the way, and make it there. The journey was about 30 minutes, so I got there with about 5 minutes to spare. So yeah, picked up the load. Just thinking what it was, one pallet. It was, oh yeah, the guy, the Forky there had the same name as me. So I often ask the Forkies what their first names are and anyone who signs for it, just so that if they, for two reasons really. The main reason is just to be friendly and polite, because I can say thank you then their first name. But the secondary reason is if they sign my pod, they often don't put their first name, but their first initial, then I can just add to it afterwards what their first name was without having to sort of have that second conversation. Um, so yes, so he had 7 minutes with me. He was very friendly. We had a bit of a chat, and then I was off on my way. The load I had was for a medium wheelbase job, medium wheelbase van. It was 103 miles, 104 miles, and I bid £120. It's basically £115, £1.15 a mile. But when I actually got the load, it was one small pallet, as in a small load on a standard sized pallet. It was one pallet with not very much on it, and it would have fit on a small van easily. So I felt that I got really good value for that, charging medium van prices for a small van job. So I got that delivered to Hull, and as soon as I left, Google Maps was saying 2 and 3/4 hours. That seemed like quite a long time to me to get to Hull from West Beach, and it was, and the Google Maps was red, indicating that there was congestion along the way. But on my map, there's nothing, no problem until I got really close to Hull. And when I looked at the map closely, it was congestion over the Humber Bridge and then congestion in Hull itself. So my journey from West Beach right all the way to Hull was fine. Just right at the end, there was some traffic. And I was hoping that maybe by the time I got there, it would have died down. As it was, it hadn't died down. And as I got closer and closer to Hull, my time was was stubbornly staying at 55 minutes to go. And even when I got to Hull, it was 50 minutes. It was really frustrating. So I rang the shipper and told them my new ETA. No, sorry, I texted the shipper, told them my new ETA. I just to keep in the loop. I said I'd be there at 6:05. And luckily, I kind of did a bit of a sneaky move. Um, Over the Humber Bridge toll, there's two lanes, and the left-hand lane goes left, and the right-hand lane goes forwards or right. And the traffic was basically all lined up on the right-hand lane. So I just went down the left-hand lane, thinking I'll just pop round left and then come back on myself, and go back onto the roundabout. But when I got there, there's a bit of a gap, and I was able to just sneak around the roundabout, go right, without anyone beeping me. If I do that sort of thing, I think if I don't get beeped, I'm all right. But it's not the right way to think about it. There wasn't. I managed, the gap was okay. I was sort of. I feel it was safe, but it would have been annoying for anyone who saw me do it. So it would have just bypassed the whole row they were in. But by doing that, I saved myself about 10 minutes of the journey, which I feel okay about, to be honest. Yeah, there's a customer at the other end, and I got them their stuff a bit quicker. So yeah, so I got to that site and I got offloaded, and then I was in a bit of a quandary. What do I do next? So I had a plan, and my plan was I'll head towards Leeds, and if I did that, I'd be there at 7:30, which is not going home. It's going perpendicular to my home. And I was in the hope that I'd find a job from Leeds going southwards, and then maybe get a bit more money, maybe even have another late night tonight. There was actually a job as I got out of Hull from Hull to Purfleet, but it was delivering in the morning, and by this point I'd won a job in the morning from Peterborough going to Ilkeston. So I'll be home tonight um, to do that job. It's quite early start, it's 8 o'clock start. So there were a couple of jobs as I left Hull from Leeds going to London, and I almost bid on them, but I wouldn't have got there in time, so I left those. I thought, well, if I get there, if I go straight to Leeds now, there may be some more jobs later on. And as I was moving towards Leeds, the roads were quite free at this point. It's really the Humber Bridge bit that's the congestion bit. The bit I was on was kind of bypassed that on the way out, was free. So I was looking for jobs, and there wasn't really anything coming on. And the further I got out of Hull, the more I kind of doubted my plan. So I decided that I would get myself to some services, um, and just sort of reevaluate, look at my mileage, look at the time, and see whether it's worth just going straight home. I'm going to slow down for this lorry so you can get past me easier. I'm going to do the old flashing thing so they come through. He's ignored that. Well, fair enough. I'll try my best. So I stood at such services, and there was nothing really coming out of these. Services were the ones on the M18. I'd come off, I think it was the M62, come off onto the M18 to head towards Doncaster, to the first services, and then just took a break there to see what I could do. And this would have been about 7ish by the time I got there. And I put in my stats for the day, and it's not going to be a good day for stats if I go straight home. But actually, if I stay any longer, trying to get a job from Leeds, I'm going to end up being a really late night and early time in the morning. So I've decided to just dead my lip back. I am a little bit tired today, to be fair. And if I had another day like yesterday, I think I would not cope with tomorrow, having an early start. So I think it's the wisest thing to do is to just get home and get some rest. I think tomorrow will be busy. I'm happy it will be. And I want to just share with you before I finish my kind of thinking about days like today. So the decision I made was I could either stay at home, do some admin and sort of not do very much else, or get that job from Wisbech to Hull for £120. And I don't regret doing the job. It is a decision that I could have made either way. I think I would have regretted more staying at home and not going out. So this is how I think of it. I think that today, if I think about it today, it'll feel like a bad day because I've not made very much money, and my earnings, I'll tell you at the moment, will be just about enough to cover my business expenses, but not quite. The way I look at it is, come the end of the month, when I get paid this invoice, it'll be another biggish amount of money coming in, £120 plus VAT, which will just, at that point, seem like, oh, that was worth it, doing that job that day. So right now, if I focus on it, try and achieve target, I'm probably going to think it's not been a good day. But considering the start of the day where I had a puncture and I got it repaired so quickly, it's been okay. I did lose out on 2 good paying jobs, so I have to remember that. And I have to pay for a new tyre. I wouldn't have to do that at any point anyway, so just doing that sooner rather than later, the new tyre. So I think I've made the best of a day, bearing in mind how it started. I think sitting at home would have been the wrong thing for me to do. And at least I had a chance to find a job back from Hull, even if it was remote. And also, I've done a job for that shipper again, another job that they hopefully going to appreciate me for. I might get some feedback for it, which is another good thing. Add to the feedback. So, yeah, if I had to come down one way or the other, I think I'm pleased I did go out in the end. But let me give you my stats, because they're not impressive today at all, but they are true. This is actually what has happened today. Okay, so when I get home tonight, which will be a nice early 9:15, I will have worked today. I haven't included the leaving the house at 9:40, I've assumed I've just started when I left the house for my job, so I assumed leaving at 1:40. So I have worked today, bearing that in mind, for 7.5 hours, and I have driven for 286 miles, 286. I have filled it with fuel again. It's 15.92 pence per mile that I'm spending on fuel. That means today I spent £45.52 on fuel. So my one CX job was £120, 120. So after fuel costs taken into account, I've made £74 in that half a day's work, which is a tad under, but close enough to cover one day of my business expenses. So that's how I see it. That's what I've done. I've covered one more day of my running my business. Right, so I'll leave it there. I think it's a bit obvious. If you know me by now, it's going to be obvious what I'm grateful for. I am grateful for both my mechanic, my garage guy, mechanic, should I say, garage guy, my mechanic give me another person I can contact. I've had another contact today, someone who specialises in tyres for commercial vehicles, who's close to my home. So last time I got some tyres, I was really not impressed with the service level that I had from the company. I've now got a local company that's kind of I don't know if it's literally a one-man band, but I'm going to say one-man band as a shorthand for a family-run business. And I've now got that contact. I'm going to get them to do my tyres in future. And so I'm really grateful for how quickly he came out, how friendly and professional he was. He was a great guy and charged me a very fair rate for doing the job. And I'm really grateful for those sort of people, but those two people in particular. Really good to know. I'm going to make a bit of an assumption here, and it's a bit of a generalisation, so it won't be true for everyone. But I think what I'm going to say is, I live in a remote area of the country. I live in outside a small town. It's not even in the town itself. But I find that having moved here, that's a whole other story, by the way. I'll tell you about that another time. Having moved here recently, because it's a smaller town, and the people seem to be much more, friendly and wanting to help you, customer service orientated. When I go to towns and cities, it's hit and miss whether I'll get that sort of service. I think the sort of people that work, so even the forklift driver today, it was in Wisbech, he was really friendly. I think it's just something to do with being a bit more out of the cut and thrust of the towns. I don't know the reason why. Maybe it's cheaper to live there, therefore you've got less pressure on working. Maybe it's just, I don't know, it could be a whole lot of reasons, couldn't there? But in general terms, the service level I get from people in the smaller places, the regional places, tends to be a bit better than in towns as it is. Yesterday I was in Birmingham and I had great service from the lady who was in the conference centre. So obviously it's just a generalisation, but I think that that's what I've noticed. Anyway, let me move this to a close. I would like to thank you very much for listening to this video. The last video took ages to upload. I think it didn't upload till about half an hour ago or an hour ago. No, a couple of hours ago. So this might not be until tomorrow, who knows. But it is a bit shorter, so it might be quicker. So I hope that you are successful, however you choose to define that term for yourselves. And what is it that you're grateful for today?